So, hello everyone. Good morning to all of you. So we are live now on the day 4 of web series of web designing for the beginners. I hope you all have the very wonderful 3 days of learning and the practical sessions. So we would like to start the day 4 without wasting much time. I would like to invite Akash sir to start the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this web series of Web Designing Day 4. I hope you are ready to learn for the jQuery and Bootstrap. So, as you know, previously we have seen a basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, right? And today we are going to demonstrate on jQuery and Bootstrap. Okay. I hope. Are you ready for that? Yes or no? You can write in the chat section. Okay. So now let's get started. Let me share my screen. Okay, so it's done. Okay, so do you know what is jQuery? Do you have any basics idea of jQuery? What is jQuery? Why to use jQuery in website? You can write in the chat section if you know the basics, or maybe have you heard this word jQuery? You can write in the chat section. I'm waiting for your reply first of all. Yes or no? Okay. Yes. Okay. So jQuery, let me first open the website, that is a jQuery.com. So this is an official website of jQuery where you can see basics of the plugin, right? What is jQuery? What is use of jQuery? And the documentation is already there, right? So here we can see what is definition of jQuery. So jQuery is fast, small, and feature-rich JavaScript library. It makes things like HTML document traversal and manipulation. That will also handle some events, animation, and Ajax much simpler with an easy-to-use API that work across a multitude of browsers with a combination of versatility and extensibility. And jQuery has changed the way that millions of people writing the JavaScript. As you know, yesterday we have seen a basics of JavaScript, right? And today we are going to demonstrate the jQuery. So we can say jQuery is a JavaScript framework, right? So let's say if you are using a jQuery, it will minimize your JavaScript code. For an example, see, in previously, you know very well, in 1995 or maybe in 2000, most of the people are using Flash, right, for the animation. For an example, let's say if I mouse over on this, you can see it's a basic animation effect, right? T2, it's working, right? So for an example, let's say I want to apply the same animation in my website. For that, previously we have to use, or we have to depend on the Flash programming, right? Adobe Flash 8. There are lots of versions are there, but nowadays don't have to write a action script Flash script. Nowadays we have a jQuery tools. So for an example, you can see jQuery can work on Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Safari, and almost all the browsers. So for an example, let me give you the basics idea of jQuery first. Then we will demonstrate, and then we will take a demo on jQuery validations. So for an example, what is jQuery? So, okay. So a jQuery is fast, as I told you before. jQuery is a fast, lightweight, and feature-rich JavaScript library that is based on the principle write less and do more. Means we have to write less, and there are lots of actions are there. So jQuery gives you the ability to create Ajax. Now, what is Ajax? Do you know what is Ajax? Yes or no? You can write in the chat section, yes or no. So Ajax means, let's say, if you open a Facebook, right? Let's say if you are sending request to your friend. So without refreshing your page, your button will be changed. For an example, request friend or send friend request. Okay, I hope you know the very well. So without refreshing your page, your button and your action will be performed. Okay, so that is called as a Ajax. So let's say if you want to perform asynchronous transmission of your data, then you can use the Ajax and jQuery. And jQuery was originally created by John in 2006. So what is use of jQuery? It's jQuery, not jQuery. So you can easily select element to perform some manipulation. You can easily create effect like show, hide, sliding, transition, and so on. You can easily create complex CSS animation with the fewer line of code, and you can easily implement Ajax to enable asynchronous data to exchange between the client side and server side. So for an example, let's say if you are creating one form page, right? Let's say if I'm creating a contact us page, right? So you know very well, whenever I click on the button, submit button, the whole page will be refreshed, right? So without refreshing page, if I want to send some data to my server, we can use a Ajax technique, right? And you can easily perform multiple action on the element with the single line of code. For an example, if I click on the particular button, I want to implement multiple actions. So we can perform it, and you can easily get or set dimension of the HTML elements. So there are lots of advantages are there. It will save lots of time. Simply common JavaScript task, easy to use, and compatible with almost all the browsers. And yes, it's almost free. There will be no charge. Okay. So let's say if I want to start implementing jQuery in my page or my website, first of all, we have to download a JavaScript file from the official website. That is a jQuery.com/download. So jQuery is available in two different versions. One is uncompressed. Second one is compressed version. I will give you a demonstration for that. So let's say once you download the jQuery, you can simply implement into your website with the help of script element. Okay, as we have seen yesterday, let's say if you want to create a separate JavaScript file, then you can simply create with my file name .js, and you can also call the same JavaScript file in your website with the help of script element. So this is a basic syntax of jQuery. I know it will looks difficult right now, but I will give you a demonstration for this. So here you can see this is a script tag. This is a dollar. Dollar refers to this document. This document dot ready. Once my page is loaded successfully, ready in the sense my page is loaded successfully, then it will execute one function, right? Inside the function, we will demonstrate a basics of alert. You know what is alert? Alert is used for the pop-up message. Let's say if I want to display some pop-up in my website, so for that we can use alert. Okay, so this is a default syntax. Every time you have to follow the syntax whenever you are using jQuery in your website. So guys, first what we have to do, first we have to download the jQuery file from the internet, and then we have to write the syntax to load jQuery in our website. I hope you are ready, so we can implement in my website. Okay, so now what is next? So next is, as I told you before, this is a simple explanation. So let's say this statement is typically known as a ready event $document.ready. For an example, are you ready for a webinar? Yes. So same thing for the page $document.ready means once the page is ready, then it will perform some action inside the website, where the handler is basically function that is passed to the ready method to be executed and safely as soon as the document is ready to be manipulated. Let's say if you specify something inside the handler, it will execute when your website or your jQuery is ready. So this is a basic example of a particular HTML page. Here you can see first we have to load the jQuery file. Either you can load jQuery mean or jQuery. Okay. Once you are done with the loading of this script, then you can call this function. So you can see this is a basic output. I know we can also print a message box like this in JavaScript, but for testing purpose, we are using alert control over here. Okay. So let's say if you want to manipulate some action, or if you want to implement some action in your website, so we have to select some elements, and we have 4 different selectors. You can select by ID, you can select by class, name, and attribute. But before starting this concept, let me give you a first demonstration of jQuery, and then we will discuss for the selector. Okay. So now what is next? So next is, first of all, let me open my project, Visual Studio Code. Just go to open folder, D drive. Where is my folder? My series, web series. Okay. Okay, so it's done. So now what? First of all, we have to download the JS file. To download the JS file, we have to visit the jQuery.com. Here you can see we have a download option. Just click on this. And here you can see we have again two more options. One is a compress and second one is uncompress. So if I open this file in a new tab, you can see what is difference between compress and uncompress. Uncompress will contain some extra space, extra comments. Okay. So the size will be, you know very well, if we have extra space or extra comments, so size will be a larger than the mean version. So this is called as a compressed version. In compressed version, I know it's very difficult to identify the characters, but let's say if you are working in production website, so you can simply call this code in your website. So for an example, let's say if I save this and select your desktop, also save this, select your desktop. So for an example, let's say here you can see I have two different files in my computer. So this one is jQuery.js and this one is mean.js. So for an example, let's say if I mouse over on this, you can see the jQuery actual file size is 280 KB. And here you can say it's just 87 KB. So we can say if you load the jQuery mean, it will take maybe a few seconds, milliseconds, because it's having a 87 KB size. Okay. So no problem. You can call any files. It's up to you. But let's say if you want to optimize your website so that it will load faster, so I always recommend go for the mean version. But right now for education purpose or training purpose, we can implement any file. So simply you can copy paste over here. It's done. Okay. jQuery.html. So this is my first page. Okay. So now what is next? So next is, let's say, HTML. I know this is a basic HTML. Yes, yesterday, as you told me that, sir, please change the color theme. So before any comments, let me change. Okay, I hate this color, but it's okay. Okay, so here you can see, let's say, this is my HTML, this is my body, right? And you know very well, we have to start the head tag. As we have discussed yesterday, you can write JavaScript code anywhere, but for the script type, then text, then JavaScript. Sorry. Okay. So what is next? So next I have to call my file, right? So you can also, actually we have to call the file, so you can specify the source. So source is jQuery.js. Let's say just close this and close this. Okay, so it's done. So what is next? So next is, let's say I want to call this file script text close, and here you can type text / Java. It's done. Okay, so now what is next? I want to check whether my jQuery file is working or not. So for that, first we have to use $, then bracket, document dot ready. So once my code is loaded successfully, or once my page is loaded successfully, then what we'll do, simply we will define one function, and inside the function we have to start the curly braces and just press enter. That's it, right? So again, one more time. First, we have to start with the $, hey document. See, we have three different methods to call your jQuery coding, but we can follow this Same structure for upcoming videos, right? So $document.ready. Once my page is loaded successfully, then the function will be called the curly braces. Okay, so let's say, okay, it's done. So it's done. Okay, so here I will specify one alert control because I want to check whether it is working or not. Welcome and semicolon. Okay, so let's say if I run, right click, open with default browser, you can see it's working. But let's say if I'm doing some mistakes over here, instead of the documents, let's say if I'm writing documents and opening default browser, you can say it's not working. But let's say if you are checking your view source, you can see there is no problem at all. But make sure whenever you are working in jQuery, make sure you will check your errors from the inspect, and inside the inspect there will be an option of console. So here you can see there is an error, document is not defined, because we have to define document, not documents. So just change this, save this, and now you can refresh your page. So here you can see it's working fine, right? Let's say if I'm doing some mistakes over here, 1 2 3, I know this file is not present in my computer or my project, but let's say if I refresh this page again, you can see the file not found. So if you are a developer, try to check your errors from Control U, also from the inspect element. There is a one panel for the console, right? So if you are working in JavaScript technology, we have to focus on the console part. Let's say in same thing in Node.js, in Angular, everywhere we have to focus on the console. Okay, I hope you are enjoying and everything is going good. You can write in the chat section. Okay, so next is, let's say, what is next? So next, just simply change this. Okay, and if I refresh this, you can see it's gone, and again welcome. Done. So what is next? Next is selectors. So as I told you before, we have a 4 selectors, right? For an example, what is selector? Let's say I want to perform some action in particular coding. So you can use ID selector to select a single element with the unique ID on the page. For an example, let's say this is my one p tag. You can say it having some ID. ID equals to 80. 80 stands for Akash Technolab actually. You can specify any name. Yes, I can see that comment. Can we use jQuery after JavaScript code? Yes, depends. Yes, actually you can write, but depends what you are writing in the JavaScript. But yes, you can write. So let's say document.ready. So here you can see once my page is loaded successfully, we can specify the CSS. For an example, with the help of jQuery, I want to apply a CSS code to this particular p tag. So what we have to do, we have to select the ID with the help of has. So it will apply a background color property to this particular p tag. Okay, so it's very easy. Let me highlight this portion. Highlighted. Okay, so this code will be reflected over here. Okay, so next you can see this is my output. I know blue color is very dark, right? So what we have to do, we have to select the ID with the help of as, and then we can specify the property that is a background color blue. Okay, so next is select element by class name. Let's say you know very well, in most of the time we are using a class in our CSS. Okay, so the class selector can be used to select the element with a specific class. So for an example, instead of the ID, what we can do, we can specify the class. But for the class, we have to use dot, and here we have to change that is a class. So output remains same, but the selector is changed. So previously we have used ID. For ID we have to use has, and for class we have to use dot. I hope you are getting this point very well. So I think so without implementing this, you can refer from the slide. Okay, so you can see the color is changed. This is a paragraph. Okay, Why? Because here specified the color is yellow. So you can identify it's a totally different one from it's totally different from the previous one. Okay. So next is selecting element by name. I want to select a particular element by name. So for that, what we can use, let's say this is my H1. I want to apply a CSS color, background color green for all my H1 tag. So simply you can specify your HTML tag over here, and this background color will be applicable for all your H1 tag inside a particular page. Okay. So again, I hope you are getting this point. Okay. So you can see the H1 background color is changed to green. Then selecting element by attribute. For an example, you know very well in input type we have different attribute. Input type text, input type password, input type numbers. So same thing over here. If I want to change input type attribute, or if I want to select a particular attribute, so we can use elements by attribute. So here you can see again input type is equals to text, then and then color will be applied blue. For an example, if you are using input type password, this attribute will not apply a blue color in your text box. So whenever your type equals to is text, your background color will be changed with blue one. Okay. So again, a same property, but the different selectors, right? But let's say if you want to change for the date picker, for an example, in some time, let's say if I want to change the password field only, and if you're downloading some templates from the internet, so maybe you have faced the same problem. For an example, if you are adding a text box, it will looks good. But for an example, let's say if you are changing with input type number or input type email, right? So your CSS will not reflect in your HTML tag. The reason is it's not specified in your maybe CSS part. Okay. So here you can see the background color is changed for your text box. Okay. So that's it. It was a basics of selector, how to use this selector and how to implement. So next is, let's say, if we talk about the next part, that is, just a second. Where is my PPT? Okay. Okay, let's talk about the events. In jQuery, we have various events. For an example, let's say if you want to demonstrate some animation, right? I hope this is very important topic. So for an example, let's say events. As I told you yesterday, in JavaScript, we have different methods or different events. Let's say click, double click, on mouse over, on mouse out. So same JavaScript events you can use in the jQuery. Let's say, so here you can see in jQuery enhance the basic event handling mechanism by offering the event method for most native browser event. Some of these methods are ready, click, key paste, double click, and hover, and etc. So these are the different methods, events, right? So jQuery mouse event, if we talk about, so a mouse event is fired when user clicks some element or move some mouse pointer, etc. So for an example, let's say here you can see, let me copy paste this code so we can check the output. jQuery 2.html. So here you can see this is my code which is downloading from internet, and this is my p tag, right? So if I click on the p tag, so the color, it will slide up. The simple just a second. So here you can see this is my simple 3p tag. If I click on this, disappear, and disappear. So if I refresh it again, see, tinning, it's working good, right? So what is this code? So let me explain you this code first. So here you can see this is my p tag. Let's say if you click on the p, this refers to particular element, and it will slide up. Okay, so it's very easy. You can simply specify the events, right? Click event was there. So now let's say if we talk about the double click. So instead of this click dbl click, we can specify the double click. So let's say if I run this again, if I click one time, one, it's not working. 1 2 gone, 1 2 gone, 1 2, it's gone. Okay, so you can use this kind of events. Then next one is mouse over, means we can say it's a over. So let's say if you want to perform some action, let's say just copy this code, paste it here. I know it's very easy, that's why I'm doing copy paste, so we can save our time and we can demonstrate as much as number of topics. So let's say this is my document dot ready. So in p over, the css color will be changed, and let's say this is over, and then next will be a over out. So for an example, let's say if I run this and see, this is mouse over. Okay, it's gone. So if I refresh this, you can see it's a totally blank, there is no background. So if I mouse over on this, color is changed, and this is mouse out. Okay, so native event means JavaScript having a default methods, right? For an example, yesterday we have seen alert is a native methods. Okay, so now next is mouse enter. Now what is mouse enter? The jQuery mouse enter method attach an event handler function that select element that is executed when the mouse enter a element. For an example, let's say here you can see if I enter over here, for an example, let's say just copy this code and paste it. You can also take a snapshot of this coding so you can perform it later on your computer. So that is simple. We have to change only 2 lines, right? And the rest of the part will be remain same. So you can see mouse enter. So whenever you will enter your mouse inside the particular tag, it will change the color. So if I run this, see, done. So it's changed. So mouse enter, once you enter the mouse, it will change and it will steady the color. But let's say if you want to perform particular action, you can add multiple actions over here. Okay, and the mouse leave, for an example, if you leave your mouse, so I want to change a color, so there is one more event, mouse leave. So copy this, paste it over here. So there is only one change, that is mouse leave. So run it again. So for an example, this is my mouse, there is no effect. If I change, it's changed. Okay, so I hope you are getting this point very well, and you can also perform same task. Don't worry, you can take a snapshot of this coding and you can perform it. Okay, it's not very lengthy code, it's only having 2 lines. Okay, so now jQuery keyboard events. So in jQuery we have a keyboard events. Let's say if you want to specify some keyboard event, so keyboard event is fired when the user press a release key on the keyboard, right? So for an example, what I want to do, for an example, here you can see if I type something over here, so I want to count the number of characters. Okay, so what we can do, I think so there is one comment, please check the video, it's not visible. Right now 82 people are watching this video. I hope video is visible and you are getting the audio very well. Okay, yeah. So now let's say if I want to count the number of characters which are already entered in my text box and I want to display over here. So you know very well, let's say if you want to count something over here, so first we have to define a variable. So variable, and also we need a plus operators, we can say increment. So let's say let me perform this. So here you can see this is my key press and this is my tag span. So inside the span tag, the by default value is 0. So let's say here my I variable is there, you can see value is 0. So in input key phrase, let's say if I'm typing something in my text box, the span dot text means I'm appending the value, that is I plus equals to 1. So plus equals to 1 will be increase with the, or it will increment the value with the previous one. So right now you can see it's a 0, so it will increment by 1. Okay, so whenever I'm typing in my key text box, the key phrase event will be performed and it will change the number also. So for an example, open in default browser. So here you can see the key phrase is 0. So here I'm typing Akash, Akash. So it's done. Okay. So let's say Padhiyer. I know you are wondering for, let's say, sir, if I'm doing a backspace, then yes, it will consider as a number of characters. That is a key phrase. Okay. So this is a basic example of key praise. How many times you have praised the key? For an example, previously there are lots of games are available on internet. How many times you are clicking on the mouse or keyboards? How many characters you are typing, right? So for this purpose, you can use this event. Then next, it's, let's say, key down. The jQuery key down method attach an event handler the selected element that is executed when the user first press a key on the keyboard. So for an example, so here you can see we have input type key down. So let's say if I run this, by default your color is black and white. So key down, let's say the key down will change the color of red. So if I type something over, you can see the color is changed. Okay, so let's say whenever user typing something on text box, so your color will be changed. In this situation, you can use this events, that is a key down. Okay, so there are lots of events are there in the jQuery, and you can refer it and you can implement it. I know there are lots of events are there, but sometimes we need only 10 to 5 events or methods for our website, right? Okay, so the last one is key up. For an example, the key up method is also handling the keyboard, right? When user release the key on the keyboard, at that time color will be changed. For an example, we can say focus out. So if I'm releasing this keyboard from the text box, at that time color will be changed. So now what is next? I know this is very basic things. Let me give you a live demonstration of validations. Hold on, this will be very difficult for you because for that you have to follow me very well. So let's say with the help of this kind of events or basic code, we're never going to create such kind of slider or date picker. So by default, jQuery is providing a website. The website name is jQueryui.com. So here you can see we have lots of widgets are there. So now you can see this is accordion, this is autocomplete. So I request you everyone, once you are done this webinar, right, then you can refer all the controls and you can identify. Accordion means this one, autocomplete means you know very well. Let's say if you are searching on Google, you are getting some result that is called as the autocomplete, and most of the website having this control, that is a date picker. For that, for an example, previously when HTML5 was not there, most of the people were using the date picker control. So for an example, let's say I want a control like this, right? So this is called as an action script. And let's say if you want to implement the same control in your website, you can click on the view source, you will get the coding. But make sure your path is set properly in the reference. So here you can see the most important widget is, that is a date picker. So let's say if I click on this, okay, if you want to add some animation, see, okay, so blind, okay, slide slow, then fold. So you can see it's folding your date picker. Okay, so you can download this UI toolkit in your computer and you can implement it. But let's say if we talk about jQuery plugins, there are lots of plugins are there. You can simply search on the Google jQuery plugins, and there is one website, jQueryscript.net, based jQuery. Right? So based.jQuery.com is one of the best website from where you can get list of plugins, right? And you can simply implement in your website. So there are lots of plugins are there. Okay, let's say if you open the website of Narendra Modi, right? So in Narendra Modi website, you can see there are lots of animations and jQuery are there. For an example, let's say this is a slider. So here you can see this is animation, lazy loading, right? Okay. So now let's say if you open the source code, I'm not trying to hack the website, don't worry. I'm just analyzing the which JavaScript library is used in this website. So simply Control U and Control F, JS. So in nowadays, almost website are using jQuery plugins. So let's say you can see in Narendra Modi website, they are using jQuery autocomplete UI, which we have seen over here. So you can see, click on this autocomplete, and you know very well this is called as autocomplete. And let's compare this code with this one. So for an example, let's say just drag and drop over here this one. And where is this? Yes, this one. So here you can see this is jQuery autocomplete, right? So autocomplete.ui. So for an example, where is autocomplete CSS? Okay, but they have just loaded this jQuery UI CSS file, so it's not required to load the jQuery UI. But yes, actually they are using this plugin over here in the Narendra Modi website. Then there are lots of other stuffs are there. For an example, jQuery date picker, or simply you can search the same term in Google. For an example, jQuery fancy box. So if you search on the jQuery fancy box, you will get a first website. So this is a plugin. Let's say if you click on the particular image, you will get this kind of pop-up, right? Then jQuery autocomplete, jQuery date picker, jQuery animation, jQuery repel, and let's say if I scroll down this, there are lots of jQueries are there. In the pretty photo, slim scroller, let's say jQuery slim scroller. So you can see they are using a library. A library name is jQuery slim scroller. For an example, where is the demonstration? Give me a demo for that. Okay, hold on. Let me check. Are they providing any demonstration? No, demo is not there. So for that, you have to write actually some code in your website. Okay. So do you need any demonstration for that? If yes, then I will give you a demo how to implement jQuery validation in your website. If you are interested, then write in the comment. So I will give you a demonstration how to implement a jQuery validation in your website. I'm waiting for your comments. Okay, yes. So now let's get started. jQuery validation. Yeah, of course. So now let's say this is a jQuery validation plugin, right? So let's say if I am giving a demonstration for this validation, make sure you know the basics of jQuery, or make sure we have to follow the documentation. Before starting implementing this validation, first we have to analyze the total plugins. We have to analyze the documentation, which method we have to use, how to call particular methods, and also check your demonstration. So here you can see demo is there. So you can see this is a simple example of validation, right? So for an example, I want to implement the same validation in my website. So what we can do, we can simply download one validate file, or we can simply copy this. Just remove this. Okay. Copy paste. We have to call this copy. It's done. Okay. So next is we have to define one text box with the form tag. Name, input, type, text, name, txt1. Same for email. And mobile. Txt. It's done. Okay, so this is my simple sign up form, or we can say this is a simple contact form. And if I want to display a new line, okay, so here you can see. So now what I want to do, I want to apply a JavaScript validation, sorry, jQuery validations over here. So now, first we have to load the jQuery file. Then we have to load the calling method. We have to specify the ID. The ID will be my form, right? And for selecting of the ID, we have to use a hash symbol. So here you can see in their official website, they have specified something over here, or you can simply do some jugaad. Just Control U and you will get this code. I know you will wondering about, sir, how to identify which code is applied for this website. Actually, I'm using this validation plugin since long time, right? Even most of the people are using the same plugin. So here you can say this is my ID comment form, right? And the ID comment form is applied over here. Okay, so there is one validate method. As I told you before, we have to first read the documentation. If you are working on new library, make sure without reading your documentation, you cannot implement a validation or maybe some other tools in your website. So the comment form will be validate over here. Okay, so we have to change the name. That will be my form. But if I refresh this page again, see, there is no effect. There is no effect at all. Why? Because we have to specify a rules. For an example, required. Then again, required and required. So now you can see the field is required. But again, sir, where is red color? This is totally black color. I want to add red color. But here you can see there will be again question. This layout is coming from where? So let's say if you Control U this, there will be a no control. You can see there is no extra controls are there. But for an example, let's say if you are checking this control with right click and inspect element, you will get one label. So here you can see we have one dynamic label which is coming from the jQuery validation library, and the class having a error. A class name is error. So for an example, I want to specify a red color for this. So what we can do, we can write a CSS. Now you know the basics of CSS. So if you want to apply some color to class, so what is my class name? My class name is error. And we can specify a color red. So let's say if I click on this, you can see the field is required. So let's say if I writing something over here, it's changed, it's gone, gone, gone. But for an example, I want to validate email. So you can write input type email, input type number. So let's say, let's click on this, name Akash, and you can see, please enter valid email address. So let's say akash.com@gmail.com, and it's gone. See, if I'm doing mistake over here, you can see it will not allow you to perform other action. So mobile number, let's say in input type number, there is one limitation. You can use e sign. Your keyboard is totally restricted, but e sign is there, right? So with the help of this validation, it will not allow you to enter e. So you can simply type 997862164. It's working. Done. So I know again you are wondering, so let's say if I want to specify a specific number, for an example, mobile number starts with this number, Aadhaar card number will start with this number. So for that you can use pattern. Let's say Indian mobile number pattern JavaScript a jQuery. So here you can see, we can say it's a regular expression number, right, with the country code. So there are lots of coding snippets are there you can use in your pattern of your HTML. There are lots of codes available for the JavaScript, also for the HTML file, right? And you can implement. See, let's say if you want to implement this kind of validation with the help of JavaScript, here you can see we have to write lots of coding. First, you have to check whether element ID having number or not, if number is less than 10, if number is greater than 10. So instead of this lengthy code, we can use the JavaScript validation, or we can replace the JavaScript validation with the help of jQuery. Okay. So here you can see again, this is one pattern, and that pattern you can implement in your validation. Okay. So now, let's say we have loaded this file successfully. Which one? Validation file. But the guy who have created this file, who have written almost this number of line of code in the file, right? You are getting the output very well because thanks to a creator for creating this file. The file creator name is John, right? So thank you, John, for creating such kind of file for us. And with the help of this file, it will take a couple of seconds to implement jQuery validations in our website. Okay. I hope you guys are enjoying and you are getting this point very well. What is use of jQuery? You can also perform the validation with the help of JavaScript. But JavaScript is very outdated nowadays because let's say once you write some validation in your website, so every time you have to focus on the pop-up. Hey, user, please enter valid number. So this is very easy to memorize, easy to understand. Let's say user will get instant validation for this, right? But let's say if you love the JavaScript, you can implement. Okay. So now what is next? So you can use the same technique. You can use lots of plugins are there. And you can also visit my channel. So you will get lots of controls for that. For an example, Akash, where is Akash? jQuery. I know we have to cover the Bootstrap basic for today's session. So here you can see how to implement jQuery validation. Data table. Data table is also good plugins. Hello world in jQuery, right? And jQuery CK editor or jQuery Lightbox. How to use jQuery Lightbox. Let's say if you want to display your image in pop-up format, right? So you can use this tutorials. So let's say one more plugin which is very useful. That is a data table. So let's say if I click on this, here you can see. Nowadays we are fetching some data. Nowadays we are fetching some data from the internet or maybe from database, right? But in HTML, we are not going to fetch any data from the any website. But let's say if you are fetching your data from database and if you want to display a pagination or filtration or sorting, searching, then you can use this plugin. The plugin name is data table, right? So here you can search your record. It is very fast. You can filter it out. Okay. You can paginate. Okay. So there are lots of features are there. You can refer this website, and you can also search video for this in my YouTube channel. You will get tutorials for that. Okay, I hope the basic of jQuery is enough for you, right? So now we can focus on the next topic, that is a Bootstrap. And tomorrow will be a last day, and last day we will cover how to create a professional website blog in WordPress. Okay, see, the series is specially designed for the beginners, so at least beginners can understand what we can do with the help of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, jQuery. I know I'm not going into depth because we have to cover lots of topics in 1 hour. So that's why I hope you can understand and you are enjoying this very well. So if you are a beginner or if you are expert and if you are intermediate, at least you can revise or you can get some idea. Okay. So now what is Bootstrap? You can write in the chat section. Have you used Bootstrap? Yes or no? Okay. So Bootstrap is, for an example, let's say we have designed few pages in our HTML, and you know very well some of the websites are not proper. For an example, let's say if I open my Facebook, I think Facebook is not good for right now. So let's say if I open Flipkart, no, Flipkart is now Amazon. Yeah. New 5 Bootstrap is updated, but it's a beta version of it. It will take some time. Maybe it will release in December 2020. I have seen that news. So definitely Bootstrap 5 will be coming soon in 2020 December. Okay, so here you can see this is Amazon website. So let's say if you are checking in mobile layout, you can see we are facing this scrolling issue. So this is not a responsive website. So what is definition of the responsive website? So whenever you are opening your website in particular device, so the size will be automatically adjust, right? For an example, let's say if I open akashtechnolabs.com, okay, or maybe akash.com. So this is my website. So let's say if I resize my browser window, and you can see this is my browser. Okay, so if I resize it, you can see the font is changed, the menu is gone, and now you can see the totally layout is changed, and you can see your website is again working perfect, and you can at least visit your website in your mobile. So this is called as a responsive web designing. Okay, so again this one, if I open in mobile, you can see menu is again changed. Okay, but yeah, we have to focus on the media query for that. So media query is what? For an example, let's say if you want to check your website in various devices in the same time. So responsive website check. So here you can see we have lots of websites are there, right? And you can specify the website URL and you will get your website in different browsers. So this is your let's say, I know there are few bugs are there, I know very well because we are working on that. Actually we are designing my new website. So you can see this is a iPhone, this is landscape, portrait, Android, pixel. So you can view website in different browsers like this, different mobile. Because let's say if you are building a website for your clients, we have to check in the various resolutions, right? And this is very painful task for the web designer because nowadays new devices are coming day by day. And you know very well recently Samsung or maybe folded mobile launch. Yeah, Samsung. So this is very biggest pain. Not this one, right? Yes, this device. So for this device is again we have to write a new media query. Okay, so let's say what is responsive, how to design your website in a responsive way. So Bootstrap 4 is a front-end web development framework. Front-end web development framework usually cover these things: a typography, a form, a buttons, a tables, navigation, modules, images carousel, and additional to optional JavaScript plugins. Bootstrap in particular is oriented towards the responsive web designing. That is called as a RWD. RWD, responsive web designing. And this means that Bootstrap, you can easily create a website which will look and functions properly on multiple devices. Okay. So there are some advantages of Bootstrap. It's beginner friendly. Let's say if you don't want to go in the depth of your HTML, or if you don't want to learn CSS enough, don't worry. We can simply design your website with the help of Bootstrap, right? So Bootstrap is focusing typography, means let's say your font face, your font information, and browser compatibility and mobile friendly is the most important thing for the Bootstrap, right? So for that, we have to create a basic layout in the Bootstrap. So for that, we have to write the basic HTML structure, doc type, HTML language. We have to specify that is English, meta character set UTF-8. It will accept all the characters, Gujarati, Hindi, English, Marathi, etc. And then we have to write a most important file, tag, that is meta name view part, and this will define your website width will be a device width and the initial scale be 1. So we have to write this line to add your website in a Bootstrap. And one more thing, we also have to include the jQuery file, CSS file, which is designed by the Bootstrap itself, right? So now what is next? So before starting the designing your website in Bootstrap, make sure we have to add the container. The container you know very well. Let's say if I search in the Google, the container. So container you know very well. The first picture will comes in your mind like this. So this is your main box. Inside the box, we have to define a various elements. Okay. So container means it's not like that. Actually, the container is a class which will provide a fixed width container. That second one is a container fluid, will provide a full width container, and that spans the whole width of the view report. So for an example, let's say if you are specifying your website in a container, let me give you a demonstration for that. Just a second. Just close this. Okay. So we have to visit the official website, Bootstrap. And this is a website that is a getbootstrap.com, right? So now you can see this is a documentation, examples, icons, themes. There are lots of things are there. And we have to call this CSS, JavaScript files in our website. Okay. So you know very well what is jQuery. And Bootstrap has also created a separate CSS file, and we have to implement in our website. Bootstrap is also providing icons. Let's say if you want to add icons in your website, we have one good website that is a Font Awesome, right? So Font Awesome is almost all web designers are using this website to add fonts in their website. Because see, let's say normally if I want to add a call icon or maybe a email icon, so we have to download images from the internet and then we have to call that image. But this process will take some time, and your website will also take some time to load. But instead of this, what we can do, we can simply add this Font Awesome library. Okay. So now let's say this is my documentation, and I always recommend that if you are a beginner, just refer the documentation and you will get a quick idea. So here you can see this is a basic structure that they are providing. So for that, we have to simply copy the structure having some basics of meta keyword reports and the link for the CSS. Here you can see this is a JavaScript, contains some references of the jQuery, a Bootstrap. So now if I copy this code, if I paste it over here, so you can see my font color, I know it's not changed, but you can see the font face is little bit changed. Okay. So now let's say if we talk about the container, right? So there is one div class, a div having a class that is a container. So let's say if I just copy this container inside the h1, you can see it's starting from this one, responsive fixed width container, right? So I know it's not easy and it's very difficult because we have to learn in depth. First, we have to define the layouts. So here you can see we have different layouts. For an example, this is a container width, and container fluid. So simply if I copy this class and if I paste it over here, so now you can see it's starting from over here. So container and container fluid are two different classes, right? So almost in Bootstrap, everything is depend on the classes. So here you can see this is a media query based resolutions. So normally your device having this kind of sizes. So the extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large. For an example, if I check my computer property, you can see my computer screen resolution is 1920 by 1018. Okay, so let's say you can see a minimum resolution of computer is 800 by 600. So we have to depend on lots of resolution. So web designing is not easy task. We have to focus on the various resolution, right? So for that we have to write a media query, and you can see we have option for the grids. So this is a container small, container medium, container large, and one more thing, responsive. See, you can specify like this. So responsive breakpoints. So let's say if you are adding some particular division, or if you are adding some content in your website and it is not working in some cases, right? So what we can do, we can first analyze the resolution, in which resolution it's not working perfect. So on basis of that, you can specify the media query. So media query is what? So since responsive development is done by the mobile first, the media query is to create a sensible breakpoints for our layouts. Let's say if you say in the chat section, let's say, sir, your voice is not coming. So what I will do, I will first check whether my mic is connected or not. So that is called as a few breakpoints which I have to check from my end. So same thing over here. If it is not working in your computer or maybe in some resolution, we have to specify a media query in the CSS section. Okay. So now I think so you got the point. What is media query, right? Here you can see the media query width, maximum width, minimum width, and here inside the bracket you have to write your code. Then next is grid. In grid, let's say if you want to divide your layout in 3 columns. So first we have to add the class that is a container. Then we have to define one row. Inside the row, we can define the column, some small, small, small. So let's say if I copy the same code, and now you can see my designing will be divided into 3 columns. But let's say if I want to perform the same action without Bootstrap, you know we have to use either div tag or either table tag. Okay, but let's say if I resize this, see, now it's working perfect and it is responsive. You can see. If you do the same task with the help of table, then you will get a scrolling over here. Okay, so you can also specify colors, so you will get a better idea. Style, background color, right? I hope you are enjoying. I know it's 11 o'clock and you are waiting for the end of this webinar. If you are not happy with this session, then I can end up this right now. But if you want to learn more, then let me know. Let's see. See, it's working perfect. Okay, this is 1 line. If I resize this in 2 line, 3 line, and it's remains same. Done. Okay, so I hope you are getting what is use of this Bootstrap, how to perform this kind of designing in your website. Okay, so now what is next? So in Bootstrap, let's say this is the basics of layout. You can refer from here. Okay, and you can also divide your layout like this: 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, and so on. Okay, so now let's talk about the components. So now what is components? So for an example, I want to add some components. For an example, I want to add some text boxes, or let's say if user enters some value in the text box, and once they are getting the acknowledgement that is a positive or maybe negative, so in that case you can display a message like this: your record inserted successfully and there is some problem, so you can print the danger alert. So in Bootstrap there is some default classes, that is there is some primary colors. For an example, where is Bootstrap official link? This one. See, if I open this website, so here you can see by default Bootstrap defines some classes over here. You can see the primary, actually it's min CSS. Let me change this. Okay, so now it's visible. So now you can see this is a blue color, indigo color, and the primary, where is primary? Primary. So see, primary color, secondary color, success color, info, warning, danger, light, dark. So these are the default classes which is already defined in the your GitHub CSS. Bootstrap CSS, right? So let's say if you want to add, if you want to change the color, so what they are doing, they are actually changing the class. So you can see success, secondary, primary, right? Then if you want to add, see, there are lots of controls are there, and nowadays you also know very well we need a carousel. Let's say image changing. So form, I want a good form, so we have form controls over here. So this is a good login page having some over effect, right? A good button. I love this blue color. So you can see they have divided this layout into various division. A division having a class form group. There is one label for particular label. Then one HTML controls, and then a small help. Let's say if user are totally blank, then you can specify some help over here. So now you can see, and you can, I'm doing copy paste only because I want to demonstrate some of the UI, because let's say no one is going to design the layout. I know if you are designing, but you are referring the same concept, right? So here you can see the form is it's very lengthy, right? It's not looks good, but what we have to do, we have to define the layout, and inside the layout we have to specify the designing. For an example, let's say inside the row I'm specifying this form. Now you can see this is my login screen, but in red color it's not looks good, so simply change this color. This is my login, right? So here you can specify this is my login, let's say h1. Let's say if I want to specify here in yellow color, just change this color and h2 sign up. And I don't need this one division, remove this. Oops, there's some mistakes. It's done. So this is my sign up and this is my login. Sorry, change, interchange. This is my login and this is my sign up page. Okay, so you can change the number of fields, and you can see it looks good in the mobile responsive. It also looks good. Okay, so I hope you are getting the point very well, and session is interesting. Yes, I can see the comments. Okay, so what is next? So next is, let's say, don't worry, I will take only 5 minutes, then we can end up this webinar. Okay, so here we have a nav bar. Let's say if you want to add some navigation in your website, so we can simply use this nav bar, right? We have some card layout. Nowadays, in most of the website or most of the application having this kind of layout, having some images, some details, and the concept, right? So for an example, let's say I want to display a product over here. You know very well, in the shopping cart we have a product concept like this, right? We have different products. We have 3 cards, and if I click on the particular cards, it will display the details. So model box, for an example, I hate this JavaScript alert box, then you can focus on the model box. Okay, and toast, yes. So let's say if you want to display a message box like a alert, so you can use this kind of alert toolkits. Okay, so there are lots of controls are there. Simply you can visit this website and you will get lots of idea, because we cannot cover everything in 1 hour, because let's say if you are planning for the Bootstrap webinar, we will need at least 5 working days, right? So at least we can take advantage of all the controls. Okay, so let's say if you want to add, or if you want to use some themes which is predefined by the Bootstrap, so here you can see there are lots of designings are there. Simply you can check it out, their controls, and you can start implementing it. Where is free themes? Free themes. See, here you can see the website is totally designed in the Bootstrap. Okay, and the examples, yeah. So here you can see there are some examples are there. You can simply copy this example. See, this is a simple signing example. Okay, so it looks very good, neat and clean. So this is the background color, email and password. If you press Ctrl U or view source, you will get only this output or this coding. Okay, so now you can implement this kind of coding in your website, and your website will be a responsive. Okay, so I hope it is enough for the today's webinar. So today we have seen how to implement jQuery. Just a second. Okay, as you know, we have discussed what is jQuery, how to use jQuery events, then how to call jQuery validations in our website, and then we have seen how to design your website, not your website designing, but at least how to design a basic form layouts with the help of Bootstrap. And what is Bootstrap? You know very well. So we can design a responsive based website. Okay, so I'm done for the today's webinar. I request Hiren sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Akash sir, for the today's session. So I would like to thanks all the participants for joining for the webinar today. We'll meet tomorrow again at 10 a.m. We'll be sharing the link in the morning for tomorrow's session. So thank you Akash sir, and thank you all the participants for joining the webinar. We'll meet tomorrow. Thank you very much.